Welcome back, everyone, to The Deep Dive. This is the show powered by the amazing insights you find over at bfit.ai.
That's right.
We take that huge pile of research, all those articles you send us, and we really dig in. We try to cut through the noise and find what actually works for you.
And today we're tackling something I think almost everyone who's active experiences, right?
Oh, definitely.
Whether you're, prepping for a competition or maybe you're just a weekend jogger hitting the pavement.
Yeah.
You feel it. Yeah. That muscle soreness, the stiff joints.
Yeah, that post-workout reality check. We're all looking for that edge, that way to recover faster so we can get back out there.
Exactly. And lately, it feels like the conversation is all about temperature extremes.
It really does. You see it everywhere. Athletes posting pictures in ice barrels, ads for home saunas popping up constantly.
Cold plunges, hot saunas, sometimes even, switching back and forth really fast. It's this huge thermal trend.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We've got this great stack of sources you shared, covering cold plunges, saunas, and that hot-cold contrast therapy.
And we're going to unpack it all. We want to get past the hype and look at the real science. What are the actual mechanisms? What are the proven benefits?
And crucially, what are the downsides, the risks? And, how do you actually do this stuff safely and effectively?
We're pulling all this together based on the kind of solid research that informs resources like bfit.ai.
Which, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, bfit.ai is just fantastic. It's a free source for really clear, practical articles on fitness, nutrition, wellness, all focused on what actually delivers results. No nonsense.
Totally agree. Okay, so let's get started. As always, we like to give you the bottom line right at the top, the quick take from all these sources.
Hit us with it. What's the verdict on temperature therapy?
Okay, so the quick take is, yes, things like cold water immersion or CWI, saunas, and contrast therapy, they do offer real short-term relief, especially for muscle soreness and inflammation after exercise.
So they work, but maybe not like magic.
Exactly. They're tools, not miracle cures. The research confirms ice baths and contrast therapy can definitely dial down that post-exercise inflammation and pain pretty quickly.
And saunas.
Saunas are great for boosting circulation and that feeling of deep relaxation, no question there.
Okay, sounds promising. But I sense a but coming.
There is a big but.
Yeah.
And this is really, really important if your main goal in training is getting bigger or stronger.
Yeah.
Hypertrophy.
Right.
The science is pretty consistent here. Regular ice baths, especially right after lifting weights, might actually blunt your gains over the long term. It can interfere with the muscle building process.
Wow. Okay. That's huge. So using them wrong could actually slow down your progress.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
For muscle size and strength adaptations.
Yeah.
Also, while everyone talks about the mood boost, and it is real, the evidence for that lasting long-term is, well, limited. It seems to be more of an immediate, short-lived effect.
Okay, so that different short-term relief versus potentially messing with long-term gains, that seems like the absolute key takeaway.
It really is. And understanding why that happens means we need to dive into the science, right? What's actually going on in your body at a cellular level when you expose it to intense cold or heat.
Let's do it. Where should we start? Cold.
Let's start with the shock of the cold. When you plunge into cold water, the body's immediate powerful reaction is something called vasoconstriction.
Vasoconstriction, meaning the blood vessels narrow, right?
Yes.
Especially near the skin.
Exactly. It's an involuntary thing, a survival reflex managed by your autonomic nervous system. Your body senses that extreme cold and instantly tries to protect your core temperature.
So it pulls blood away from the limbs?
It clamps down blood flow to the periphery, yeah.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about feeling chilly. This slowdown in blood flow has, like, 3 main effects relevant to recovery.
Okay, walk us through them. What's the first one?
First, it directly reduces swelling and inflammation in the tissues you just worked. Less blood rushing to the area means less fluid buildup, less edema.
Makes sense, like putting ice on a sprain.
Kind of, yeah, but on a larger scale. Second, it actually slows down the metabolic activity within the muscle cells themselves.
How does that help?
Well, hardworking muscles produce waste products, things like lactate. By slowing down the metabolism temporarily, the tissue needs less oxygen and it dampens that immediate inflammatory response.
Okay, so it's like hitting the pause button locally.
You got it. And the third effect is maybe the most it's the rebound effect.
The rebound, what happens when you get out?
Right. So while you're in the cold, those waste products are sort of stuck there because of the reduced flow. But as soon as you get out and start warming up, those blood vessels dilate rapidly.
Ah, they open back up wide?
Wide open.
Ah.
and you get this big rush of fresh oxygenated blood flowing back into the tissues. This flush is thought to help clear out all that accumulated metabolic waste much faster than normal.
So it's not just the cold itself, but the change from cold to warm that helps clean things up.
Precisely. It's a dynamic shift. Now, speaking of dynamics,
Mm.
let's talk about that initial shock, that feeling when you first hit the cold water.
Yeah, that gasp, the feeling like you can't breathe for a second.
Exactly. That's your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response kicking into high gear.
Okay.
That shock triggers a massive release of catecholamines. Think norepinephrine, epinephrine, adrenaline, basically.
Ah, the stress hormones.
Yep. And that's what causes the temporary spike in heart rate, blood pressure, and that feeling of sharp alertness or mental clarity people report. It's an acute stress response.
Huh. It's fascinating when we're using a stress response to feel, well, better afterwards. Okay, so that's cold. Let's flip it. What about heat? Saunas.
Heat does pretty much the opposite, physiologically speaking. It causes strong vasodilation.
So widening of the blood vessels.
Right. As your body temperature starts to climb in a sauna or hot bath, your body works hard to cool itself down. It does this by sending a whole lot more blood to the surface of your skin.
To radiate the heat away.
Exactly. And this overall increase in blood circulation is the main recovery benefit of heat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that improved blood flow delivers more oxygen and nutrients to the muscle tissues that need repairing. And at the same time, it helps carry away metabolic waste products, which is a gentler, more sustained process compared to that cold-induced flush.
And the feeling is totally different too, right? Cold is shocking, heat is relaxing. What's the chemical story there?
It's different. Heat stress also activates what's called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or the HPA axis.
Okay.
But instead of that sudden catecholamine dump like with cold, heat seems to gently nudge this system. It promotes the release of different neurochemicals, primarily endorphins and serotonin.
The feel-good chemical.
Exactly. Endorphins are natural pain relievers, and serotonin is linked to mood regulation and relaxation. It's largely why sauna time feels so calming and therapeutic. It's a different pathway than the cold shock.
Does it also affect stress hormones like cortisol?
Yes, sustained heat tends to reduce circulating cortisol levels, which reinforces that feeling of relaxation and stress reduction.
And we hear a lot about long-term benefits of regular sauna use, almost like exercise.
Yeah, there's some interesting research highlighted in the sources. Regular sauna bathing seems linked to better cardiovascular health over time.
How does that work?
It's thought that the repeated heat stress actually trains your blood vessels. It can increase plasma volume, improve endothelial function, that's the health of the lining of your blood vessels, and potentially lower blood pressure long term.
So it's like a passive workout for your heart and vessels.
In a way, yes. Some studies compare the cardiovascular benefits to those you'd get from, say, regular moderate walking. It's a form of passive cardio conditioning.
That's pretty cool. Okay, we've got the basic mechanisms. Cold constricts, then flushes, heat dilates and relaxes. Now let's dive deeper into the applications. Let's go back to cold water immersion, CWAY. How solid is the evidence for it helping with that post-exercise soreness?
It's actually very solid for that specific purpose. Multiple meta-analyses, those big studies that combine results from lots of smaller studies, confirm it. When you use CWI after really strenuous exercise, the kind that causes significant muscle damage, think long races, heavy lifting tournaments, multi-day events,
Right, the really tough stuff.
it demonstrably speeds up the recovery of physical function. People report feeling less sore, what we call DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, and studies show lower levels of inflammatory markers like creatine kinase, or CK, in their blood.
So if your main goal after a brutal event is just to feel better and function normally again quickly, CWI is a good bet.
It seems to be very effective for that, yes. It reduces that exercise-induced muscle damage and the associated pain and swelling. For an athlete who needs to compete again the next day, that can make a real difference in performance.
And we shouldn't forget the mental side you mentioned earlier, that alertness boost.
Absolutely. Even if it's short-lived, that surge of norepinephrine from the cold shock can have a powerful effect. It boosts alertness, focus, and many people report feeling mentally tougher, more resilient after facing the cold.
Like you accomplished something difficult.
Exactly. There's a definite psychological component. But now we have to address the elephant in the room, that major drawback we mentioned.
The blunting of gains. Let's get technical here. Why exactly does regular CWI potentially interfere with building muscle and strength?
Okay, this is really the crux of it for anyone focused on hypertrophy or strength adaptation. The primary issue seems to revolve around the inhibition of a critical signaling pathway called the mTOR pathway.
MTR, I've heard of that. What does it do?
mTOR stands for mammalian target of rapamycin, is basically the master switch for muscle protein synthesis. When you lift weights, that mechanical stress signals the muscle cells to activate mTOR.
And that tells the muscle to start building more protein to repair and grow stronger.
Precisely. mTOR kicks off this whole cascade of events that leads to muscle adaptation. Now, where does the cold water come in?
Yeah, how does it interfere?
The evidence suggests that dropping the muscle temperature significantly right after that workout stimulus effectively dampens down the mTOR signaling. It seems to reduce the activity of key enzymes downstream from mTOR, like one called P70S6K.
So it's like you flick the grow switch on with your workout, and then the ice bath flicks it right back off before the process really gets going.
That seems to be a good analogy, yes. It interrupts that crucial initial signaling phase.
Wow.
And there's more. Some research also suggests cold might interfere with satellite cells.
Satellite cells, those are the muscle stem cells, right? Involved in repair.
Exactly. They are vital for repairing damaged muscle fibers and adding new nuclei, which is necessary for long-term muscle growth. If CWI hinders their activation or ability to get to the damaged site, that's another mechanism by which it could limit adaptation over time.
So it's hitting the growth process from multiple angles, potentially.
Yeah, it appears so. And systematic reviews, again, looking at multiple studies, tend to confirm this. Using CWI regularly, right after resistance training, is associated with smaller long-term gains in both muscle size and strength compared to active recovery or doing nothing.
Okay, that's a really important distinction. The timing and frequency are critical.
Absolutely critical. So the strategy becomes, if strength and hypertrophy are your top priorities right now, you need to be very cautious with immediate post-workout cold plunges.
Maybe save them for recovery days or days focused purely on conditioning or managing inflammation from something else.
That would be the smarter approach. Or if you do use it after lifting, wait several hours. Give that mTOR pathway time to get the signal through first. But for pure endurance work, where muscle damage and inflammation might be the primary concern, CWI right after could still be beneficial. It's about matching the tool to the specific goal of that training phase.
Got it. Okay, so let's say someone decides CWI is appropriate for them, maybe for endurance recovery or that mental resilience boost. What's the practical, safe way to do it, especially for beginners? Let's talk temperature first. How cold is cold enough?
You don't need Arctic temperatures. Most of the research showing benefits uses water around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 10 degrees Celsius.
50 Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius. Okay.
That seems to be cold enough to stimulate those cold receptors maximally and trigger the physiological responses, like vasoconstriction and catecholamine release, without being unnecessarily dangerous or risking frostbite. Much colder doesn't necessarily mean much better, and it increases risk.
And duration? How long do you need to stay in?
The key effects happen pretty quickly. That initial shock and hormonal response is almost immediate. For beginners, start very short, maybe just 30 seconds to a minute. Get used to this sensation.
Right, acclimatized.
Then you can gradually build up. The typical recommendation for maximum therapeutic effect, based on the studies, is somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes.
No more than 10 minutes.
Generally, yeah. Staying in longer than that doesn't seem to offer much additional benefit for muscle recovery, and it significantly increases the risk of hypothermia or other adverse effects. Shorter is often better, especially when starting.
Okay. And frequency. How often is too often, especially considering that muscle growth issue?
Based on the source's warning about blunted gains, the advice is definitely to use it sparingly if you're also resistance training. Maybe a few times per week at most.
And definitely not immediately after every single weight session.
Correct. Daily plunges, especially post-lifting, seem most likely to interfere with those long-term strength and size adaptations.
All right, safety checklist time. What are the absolute must-dos and don'ts when taking the plunge?
Okay, number 1, always warm up gradually after getting out. Don't jump straight into a hot shower. Let your body rewarm itself slowly.
Okay.
2, unless you're very experienced, avoid fully submerging your head, as that can trigger a stronger diving reflex, affecting heart rate and blood pressure. Start with immersing up to your neck.
Good tip.
3, beginners should seriously consider having someone nearby, especially the first few times.
Supervision.
And critically, number 4, listen to your body. If you feel intense shivering you can't control, dizziness, sharp pain, sudden numbness, or any chest discomfort, get out immediately. Those are warning signs. Don't tough it out.
Excellent advice. Controlled stress, not genuine danger.
Okay, let's switch gears completely now. To the warmth, let's talk saunas.
Right, the sauna. A much gentler approach to recovery in many ways, and without that big question mark over muscle growth interference.
So what are the main recovery benefits here? We talked about vasodilation.
Increased circulation is key. That wider blood flow helps deliver nutrients and oxygen to tired muscles and carries away waste products. It's just a good general recovery promoter.
You mentioned infrared saunas earlier as maybe a better starting point than traditional ones. Can you explain the difference again? Sure. Traditional Finnish saunas get really hot, often 170 to 195 Fahrenheit, maybe even higher. They heat the air, and the hot air heats your body. It can feel quite intense, especially on your breathing.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to breathe in that dry heat.
Exactly. Infrared saunas work differently. They operate at lower air temperatures, usually in the 110 to 135 Fahrenheit range. That's about 43 to 57 Celsius.
Much cooler air.
Right. But they use infrared lamps that emit wavelengths that directly penetrate and heat your body's tissues. So you still get the core temperature rise and the vasodilation benefits.
But without the scorching hot air.
Precisely. Many people find it much more comfortable and tolerable, especially for longer sessions. It achieves that therapeutic heat stress more gently, making it a great option if you're new to heat therapy or sensitive to extreme heat.
Interesting. Now, you also touched on some deeper, maybe longer-term health benefits related to heat stress. Something about heat shock proteins?
Ah, yes, HSPs. Heat shock proteins are really fascinating molecules. They're essentially cellular bodyguards or chaperones.
Chaperones.
Yeah, your cells produce them in response to stressors like heat. Their main job is to protect other proteins from getting damaged or misfolded, and to help repair or clear out ones that already are damaged.
So exposing yourself to heat regularly actually triggers your cells to turn on their internal repair crews.
That's the idea. By activating HSPs, regular sauna use might improve overall cellular resilience and function. This is thought to be one mechanism behind those cardiovascular benefits we discussed earlier.
The improved blood vessel health and potential for lower blood pressure.
Exactly. The repeated controlled stress seems to train the cardiovascular system, improve the endothelial function, and potentially reducing long-term risk factors. As we said, some studies show mortality benefits comparable to light exercise.
That's impressive for just sitting in a warm room. What about pain? Does heat help with chronic pain conditions?
Yes, heat is often very beneficial for chronic issues. Unlike an acute injury where you want to reduce swelling with cold, chronic pain often involves muscle tightness, stiffness, and sometimes reduced blood flow to an area.
So the vasodilation helps there.
It does. Increasing blood flow can help relax muscles, ease joint stiffness, and reduce that nagging pain. The sources mentioned a study using infrared saunas for chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia or arthritis, which showed significant improvements in reported pain levels over time.
And mentally, it's that relaxation effect tied to serotonin and endorphins.
Right. The combination of reducing cortisol and releasing those feel-good neurochemicals creates a really effective environment for mental unwinding and stress reduction. People often report better sleep after sauna use, too.
Okay, saunas sound pretty great, but there must be risks too, right? What's the main danger?
Dehydration. Definitely dehydration and electrolyte loss. You can sweat out a lot of fluid in a sauna.
So hydration is key.
Absolutely paramount. You need to go in well hydrated, limit your session time, typically 15 to 30 minutes maximum is recommended, and drink plenty of water, maybe even something with electrolytes immediately afterwards.
And definitely no alcohol before or during, I assume?
Oh, absolutely not. Alcohol dehydrates you further and messes with your body's ability to regulate temperature. Very dangerous combination.
What else should beginners be wary of? Burns? Fainting?
Both are possible if you overdo it, especially at first. The advice is always to start low and slow. Use a lower temperature setting if you can, maybe that 110 Fahrenheit infrared range.
Okay.
And keep your initial sessions short, 5 to 10 minutes. See how your body responds. Pushing too hard too soon can lead to dizziness, lightheadedness, nausea, or even fainting from overheating or blood pressure changes. Build up your tolerance gradually.
Makes sense. So summarizing the practical protocol for sauna use.
Okay. Type. Infrared is often recommended, especially to start, aiming for that 110, 135 degree F, 43, 57 degrees C range. Traditional is fine too, just be mindful of the intensity.
Duration and frequency.
Start with 5-10 minutes, gradually work up to 15-30 minutes as you get accustomed to it. For general wellness, 2-3 times per week is great. If you're using it for heavy training recovery, maybe up to 4 times. But listen to your body daily might be too much unless you're very adapted.
And what about right after the session?
Let yourself cool down gradually for a few minutes. Then, It's usually a good idea to rinse off with a cool or lukewarm shower to wash away the sweat. Avoid a shocking cold shower immediately unless...
Unless you're doing contrast therapy.
Exactly. Which brings us nicely to our third modality, hot-cold contrast therapy.
The dynamic duo, using both extremes back to back.
Right. This is where we intentionally leverage both vasoconstriction and vasodilation in rapid succession.
To create what you called the pumping effect. Explain that again.
So you immerse the body part, or your whole body, in hot water first. This causes maximal vasodilation, blood vessels open wide.
Okay.
Then you immediately switch to very cold water. This triggers rapid, strong vasoconstriction, vessels clamp down.
So you're forcing the blood vessels to rapidly open and close? Open and close.
Exactly. The theory is that this alternating action acts like a mechanical pump for your circulatory and lymphatic systems. It's thought to push out swelling and metabolic waste, and then pull in fresh, oxygenated blood more effectively than either hot or cold could do alone.
And does the evidence back that up? Does it actually work better for certain things?
The evidence seems particularly strong for things like reducing stubborn swelling, easing muscle soreness, and especially improving joint stiffness or pain in more chronic conditions.
You mentioned some objective data.
Yeah, there was that 2018 study using near-infrared spectroscopy, NIRS, which can actually measure oxygen levels in tissues.
Oh.
They found that contrast therapy objectively increased tissue oxygenation and helped decrease swelling compared to controls. So it seems to be physically doing what the theory suggests, improving that local circulation and fluid exchange.
And some of the results compared to other treatments were quite striking.
They really were. That 2014 study on plantar fasciitis is a great example.
The chronic foot pain one.
Right. They found that a course of contrast baths, just alternating hot and cold foot soaks, was reported by patients to be as effective as getting corticosteroid injections for reducing their pain and improving function.
Wow, that's a powerful comparison. Steroid injections are pretty heavy duty.
It suggests that manipulating circulation this way can have really significant physiological effects on pain and inflammation, at least for certain conditions.
What about things like arthritis? Is it better than just a hot bath?
According to a 2022 review mentioned in the sources, yes. For easing arthritis, pain, and stiffness, contrast therapy appeared to be more effective than heat therapy alone. Again, it points to that active pumping providing an extra benefit.
Okay, this sounds really promising, especially for those nagging chronic issues. Let's get the protocol nailed down. This seems like it requires a specific setup.
It does require a bit more setup. You need 2 containers or tubs, one for hot water, one for cold. And the temperatures are quite specific.
How hot and how cold?
The hot water should be properly hot, but safe aim for 100 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 3840 degrees C. The cold water needs to be significantly colder than what you might use for a CWI plunge, typically 46 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 810 degrees.
Okay, 4650 degrees LA for the cold, that's chilly. And what's the timing? How long in each?
The standard protocol is to start with the hot water. You soak the affected area, or yourself, in the hot for 3 to 4 minutes.
To get maximum vasodilation first.
Exactly. Then you switch immediately to the cold water for a much shorter duration, typically just 1 minute.
1 minute cold. Okay, and then back to hot.
Yes. You repeat that cycle, 3 to 4 minutes hot, 1 minute cold.
How many times?
You generally repeat the cycle 3 to 4 times in total, so the whole session lasts about 15 to 20 minutes.
And do you end on hot or cold?
Most protocols recommend ending with the cold immersion if the primary goal is reducing inflammation or swelling. Sometimes ending on hot might feel better for pure pain relief or relaxation, but the standard therapeutic approach usually finishes cold.
Got it. And just to reiterate the big warning here, this is for chronic issues, right? Not fresh injuries.
Absolutely critical point. Contrast therapy involves heat, which increases blood flow. If you have an acute injury, like a muscle tear or sprained ankle, within the first 48 hours, where there might still be active bleeding inside the tissues,
Heat will make it worse.
it will likely increase the internal bleeding and swelling. For those first couple of days, stick strictly to cold therapy, ice packs, or maybe short CWI. Save the contrast therapy for later, once the initial inflammation and any bleeding have stabilized, and you're focused on promoting healing and clearing out residual stiffness.
Perfect. Okay, we've covered the how and why for all three. Cold, heat, and contrast. Now, we absolutely must talk about safety in more detail. These are not risk-free interventions. Who needs to be particularly careful or avoid them altogether?
Top of the list has to be anyone with cardiovascular concerns, heart issues.
Why are temperature extremes so risky for the heart? Let's break it down for cold first.
Okay, when you plunge into cold water, That sudden, intense vasoconstriction dramatically increases what's called peripheral resistance.
Meaning the heart has to push harder to get blood through those narrowed pipes?
Exactly. It sharply increases both heart rate and blood pressure almost instantly. For someone with an underlying condition, maybe undiagnosed coronary artery disease or severe hypertension, this sudden massive load on the heart could potentially trigger an arrhythmia, a heart attack, or another serious cardiac event.
Okay, that's a serious risk. And heat, is it stressful in a different way?
Yes. Heat forces the heart to work harder too, but differently. To cool the body, the heart has to pump a much larger volume of blood towards the skin. This significantly increases cardiac output.
So it's working harder by pumping more blood faster.
Right. While this can be beneficial training over time for a healthy heart, if the heart is already weakened or compromised, this sudden demand for high output can overwhelm it.
So the bottom line for anyone with any history of heart problems, high blood pressure, known arrhythmias, or even just significant risk factors.
Medical clearance is not negotiable, full stop. You need to talk to your doctor before even thinking about putting your system through these kinds of extreme thermal stresses. It's just not worth the risk otherwise.
Absolutely. Okay, next high-risk group. People with sensory issues, like neuropathy. Why is that a concern?
This is a big one, especially for contrast therapy, where you have both hot and cold extremes. People with conditions like diabetic neuropathy or severe peripheral vascular disease, or even things like Raynaud's phenomenon.
They might not feel temperature normally in their hands or feet.
Exactly. Their ability to sense hot and cold accurately can be impaired or even absent. This means they could potentially suffer a severe burn from the hot water, or frostbite or tissue damage from the cold water without even realizing it's happening.
Because the pain signals aren't working properly.
Right. The body's normal protective warning system is offline. So for these individuals, immersing limbs in temperature extremes they can't properly feel is extremely risky. They should generally avoid ice baths and be incredibly cautious with any heat application, sticking to lukewarm temperatures. Contrast therapy is likely out.
Okay, very important warning. Let's hammer home the acute injury point one last time, too.
Yes. If you have a fresh injury, first 48 hours, think swelling, possible internal bleeding like a bad bruise or tear. Avoid heat and avoid contrast therapy. Heat dilates blood vessels, which can worsen bleeding and swelling. Stick with rice, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Cold therapy only initially.
Got it. What other groups need to be cautious? You mentioned pregnancy earlier.
Yes. High core body temperatures, especially in the first trimester, can potentially harm fetal development. So pregnant women should avoid saunas, very hot tubs, and probably extreme cold plunges as well.
And fertility.
There's also evidence that excessive heat exposure, like frequent long sauna sessions, can negatively impact sperm production and quality. So men who are actively trying to conceive might want to moderate their sauna use.
What about just being sick, like with a cold or flu?
Definitely avoid thermal therapies when you're ill, especially with a fever. Your body is already working overtime trying to manage its temperature and fight the infection. Adding the stress of extreme heat or cold is counterproductive and just puts extra strain on your system. Rest is key.
And finally, specific conditions like multiple sclerosis.
Right. Many people with MS experience heat intolerance, meaning heat exposure can temporarily worsen their symptoms like fatigue or muscle weakness. Karafos phenomenon, it's called. Sauna use is generally discouraged or requires extreme caution and doctor approval for individuals with MS.
Wow, okay. That's a comprehensive list of warnings.
Yeah.
It really highlights that these aren't just casual wellness fads. They have real physiological power and potential risks.
Absolutely. You have to respect the stress you're putting on your body.
So let's try to synthesize everything we've discussed. We've gone through the mechanisms, benefits, risks, protocols. What are the final practical takeaway recommendations for someone listening? Let's collaborate on this.
Okay, let's start with cold plunges, CWI. What's our summary advice?
Based on everything, I'd say. Use them strategically, primarily for reducing acute soreness and inflammation, especially after intense endurance or muscle-damaging activities.
Agreed. And crucially, use them sparingly if muscle growth or strength is a key goal. Maybe only a few times a week.
Keep the temperature reasonable, around that 50-degree or 10-degree C mark. No need for near freezing.
And keep the duration relatively short, 5-10 minutes max, building up slowly. And remember, the timing avoid immediately after resistance training if hypertrophy is the priority, Wait several hours or skip it that day.
Okay, good summary for CWI. Now, saunas.
Saunas seem great for general relaxation, stress reduction, potentially improving circulation, and offering those longer-term cardiovascular benefits.
Yeah, think recovery enhancement and passive cardio training. The infrared option seems like a good starting point for gentleness.
Definitely. Start with shorter sections, 5–10 minutes, and lower temps, like 110, 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Work your way up.
And the absolute non-negotiable.
Hydration, hydration, hydration.
Hmm.
Before, during, if needed, but maybe just sip, and especially after. Limit sessions to 15–30 minutes max.
Perfect. And finally, contrast therapy.
This seems like the powerhouse for more chronic issues, persistent joint stiffness, ongoing muscle soreness, conditions like plantar fasciitis or maybe arthritis pain.
Where that pumping action seems uniquely beneficial.
Right, but it requires that specific setup and protocol. 104 degrees scary hot water, 46–50 degrees a cold water.
3 to 4 minutes hot, then 1 minute cold. Repeat 3 to 4 times, usually ending on cold.
And the big caveat, absolutely avoid it during the acute phase, first 48 hours of a fresh injury. Use cold only then.
Excellent. So wrapping all that up, what's the ultimate bottom line for someone trying to navigate all this?
I think it's that these thermal therapies offer real, but ultimately fairly modest benefits. They are adjuncts to good training, solid nutrition, and adequate sleep.
They support recovery. They don't create fitness.
Exactly. They can help you manage symptoms, maybe improve consistency by reducing soreness, or provide relaxation. But they won't magically make you fitter or stronger on their own. Understand the specific benefit and risk profile of each, especially that CWI hypertrophy trade-off.
Choose the right tool for your current goal and phase of training.
Yes. And the most important piece of advice, always.
Listen to your body.
Always. If something feels wrong, too painful, makes you dizzy, excessively stressful, stop immediately. Don't push through warning signs.
And given the potential stresses involved, especially with heart health.
We have to repeat it. Talk to your doctor. Get personalized medical advice before starting any of these.
Yeah.
Especially if you have any pre-existing health conditions.
Yeah.
Safety first.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, we always like to leave our listeners with a final thought, something to mull over.
The provocative thought.
Yes. So we've established pretty clearly from the science that the mood benefits that norepinephrine jolt from cold, the endorphin serotonin release from heat, are primarily acute, short-term.
Right. The studies don't show they permanently change your baseline mood chemistry after the session ends.
But here's the thought. Consider the ritual and the consistent application of those short-term boosts. If doing a cold plunge regularly makes you feel sharp, disciplined, and ready to face your day.
Or if that sauna session consistently helps you unwind, de-stress, and get better quality sleep.
Even though the chemical boost itself is temporary, could the consistency of achieving that state day after day or week after week actually lead to a more sustained positive impact on your overall well-being, your adherence to training, your mental resilience?
That's interesting. So maybe the long-term benefit isn't purely biochemical, but more about the psychological impact of consistently engaging in these practices, the feeling of control, the ritual of self-care, the reinforcement of discipline.
Exactly. How might consistently leveraging those short-term subjective feelings influence your long-term commitment and mental state? It's that intersection of mind and body, physiology, and psychology.
That's definitely something worth reflecting on in your own experience if you use these therapies. It's not always just about the molecules.
A fantastic point to end on. This has been a really thorough exploration of the science behind getting hot and cold for recovery.
It really has. Thanks again for providing such a great set of sources to dig into. Hopefully this clears up some confusion and helps you all use these tools more effectively and safely.
And remember, if you want more of this kind of clear, evidence-based, practical information on fitness, nutrition, and wellness cutting through the hype, definitely check out bfit.ai.
It's a fantastic free resource, seriously. We use it ourselves.
So until our next deep dive,
Stay active, stay curious, manage your temperature wisely.
and we'll catch you next time.